kasi I know some of you, 'di ba may workshop ata na naka-schedule. So, kung sino man yung inassign ng class na mag-record para sa lahat, so you can do it later once we start, ha? Okay, you have my permission to record naman. And I will turn off the microphone and the sharing screen option sa inyong lahat ha, para hindi ma-interrupt yung ating presentation. Okay? And then, reminder guys, parang 2 meetings left na lang ata tayo um, for your blood banking. So, ilang kembot na lang guys, matatapos na tayo. Teka, i-double check ko muna. Sana tama ako. Wait lang. Okay, so ayun, tama. So, for this week, we have your transfusion therapy in special conditions and apheresis. And then, we'll have your transfusion reactions next week. And then, the quality in blood banking. So, dalawa na nga lang yung natitira. Then, you'll have your examination week na. And, tiyaran, ano na kayo guys? 4th year na kayo. Sana all, diba? Okay? So, anyway, okay, may ano ata ako, may mali ata ako nabanggit last time sa inyo. Okay, so, 'di ba sabi ko magta-transfusion therapy agad ngayon, hindi pa pala. Okay, transfusion therapy, transfusion reactions, pero mali pala yung nabanggit ko last time. So what we have or what's our topic for this week is etong transfusion therapy in special conditions plus your apheresis. Though nagbigay na ako sa inyo ng overview ng apheresis, 'di ba, last time. So kasama siya doon sa mga na-mention ko, lalong-lalo na yung sa donor collection and preparation. Okay, so nabanggit ko na rin si apheresis but later on dadagdagan natin siya guys ng for therapeutic naman. Okay, therapeutic procedure ng plasma or ng plasma rather, ng apheresis. Okay, so may karagdagan lang siya na topic for that. And siguro let's go na to our discussion proper. So again, bahala na kayo guys kung sinong naka-assign sa inyo for recording. Okay, and kayo nang bahala magbigay rin sa class ninyo. Okay. So for our first topic, first topic natin is transfusion therapy in special conditions. So we have 7 special conditions na mame-mention dito. Okay, and the first one is your surgical blood order schedule, type and screen. So sa SBOS, so actually etong si SBOS na to guys. Okay. This is actually a protocol. Okay, so protocol which is designed actually to optimize your transfusion during surgical procedures. But take note of this. Sa surgery kasi guys, hindi naman lahat ng pagkakataon kailangan mo hindi naman lahat ng pagkakataon kailangan mo ng transfusion or may involvement na transfusion. Because take note of this, most of the surgical procedures does not require blood transfusion. So kumbaga in special cases lang, for example for example, bigyan ko kayo ng isang surgical procedure. So halimbawa, um, you are going to have your cesarean section. Okay? So kahit hindi mataas ang risk na transfusan ka ng blood, so may ginagawa at may ginagawa ka pa rin na protocol prior to surgery. For instance, magta-type and screen ka sa patient mo. Baka sakali kasi during that time na ongoing ang procedure niya or CS section niya, biglang mangailangan yan siya ng dugo. Kumbaga, ang SBOS na to guys is backup plan mo lang to. Okay? Backup plan mo na transfusion sakali man na magkaroon ng problema at mangailangan ka ng blood transfusion during surgical procedure. But take note of this. Again, hindi lahat ng surgical procedure is kailangan mo ng transfusion. Okay? So, ano yung mga ginagawa natin for your surgical blood order schedule? So, eto standby lang ito. So, una, you have the type and screen before surgery. Obviously, you have the patient's blood type, RH blood type of your patient, and in some country, of course, they do their antibody screen. Okay, nag-antibody screen sila. Pero sa atin natin sa Philippines is enough na yung ABO and RH typing. Now, for the type and screen, okay, so for example, match ang ABO-RH blood group. However, okay, sa antibody screen, nagkaroon ka ng dalawang possible scenario. So, the first one there is kapag nagkaroon ng positive antibody screen si patient. Okay? Positive antibody screen for your patient kailangan mo ng further identification and kailangan mong maghanap ng compatible units as much as possible. Okay? Kapag ang antibody screen niya nag-positive, so further identification ang susunod mo, which requires antibody panel identification. Okay? Antibody panel identification para ma-specify mo anong antibody ang present kay patient. Now, if negative naman ang antibody screen niya, so the ABO and RH type specific may be released. So, kung blood type A positive siya, so pwede mo na i-release yung blood unit na yon after an immediate spin or electronic cross-match. Okay? After an immediate spin or electronic cross-match. Okay. Now, for cross-matching consideration, so, kapag kasi magko-cross-match tayo for patients na magsasubject for surgery, so there's a low incidence or low likelihood kasi na mangangailangan nga tayo ng transfusion. Well, again, case-to-case basis. Tingnan mo muna ang case ni patient. Kung sakaling mataas ang possibility, kung sakaling mataas ang possibility na si patient ay mag-undergo ng transfusion, then better na pagtapos mo ng ABO-RH typing, do your cross-matching na lang. Okay? Pero ang cross-matching kasi is a long procedure which is, kain din siya sa oras kung hindi mo naman kailangan. So again, that will depend on the case of your patient under the surgical table. So kailangan, prepared ka lang or on standby ka lang din dyan para sa possible na magiging result niya. So dito ka na ngayon papasukan ng mga stat na cross-match. Okay? And then next is we have here the optimal cross-match to transfusion ratio, which is the recommended ratio for that is 2:1 and 3:1. Okay, so you do your cross-matching and then if possible na mayroong transfusion na magaganap. So the extension of practices to non-surgical patients, so actually the aim of this one, is to increase the inventory of your uncross-match units available for immediate needs beyond surgical needs. So ito ang sinasabi natin kung kailangan talaga ng blood unit on standby para sa patient, then do your typing and cross-match. Okay? Pero pag hindi kasi, pwede pa natin kasi ma-utilize yung mga uncross-match units, lalong-lalo na guys, kung mas may possible pa na mga ngailangan na pasyente dyan. For example, meron kang nasa ER. Meron kang nasa ER. So priority mo ngayon kung sino ang mas nangangailangan. Okay, so that will again depend on the case of your patient under surgery and the patient that will come in your emergency room. Okay, so the next a special condition that we will consider also in your transfusion therapy is for autologous transfusion. Now, for autologous transfusion, we know that when you say autologous transfusion, so you donate your blood for yourself, for your own use, for your future use. Pero in this case kasi, bakit ginagawa ito ng ibang donor? Bakit mas prefer nila yung autologous transfusion? Because it's their own blood. Kumbaga, you reduce the risk of transfusion reaction and possible transmission of infectious disease. So, sarili mong blood yan, galing sa'yo yan. Okay? So, if you are going to perform the surgery or may nakaschedule, may nakapending ka na surgery. So, other people, ang ginagawa nila is naghahanap na sila ng blood prior to surgery. But some people might opt to do your autologous transfusion. So, sila na mismo, so months before their surgery schedule, so sila na mismo yung magdodonate ng blood nila para sa sarili nila. Okay? And we have two types of your autologous transfusion. So, you have the pre-deposit autologous transfusion, and then you have there your intraoperative hemodilution. So, in the case of your pre-deposit autologous transfusion, so, ano yung ginagawa dito ng patient is they donate their blood before the scheduled surgery, and then they store it for later use. So, ito yung ina-explain natin kanina. And then you have the intraoperative hemodilution. So, here, the blood is collected from the patient just before the surgery. And then, the patient is replaced with fluids. And then, i-re-infuse sa kanya at the end of surgery or procedure ang blood na kinuha sa kanya. So, eto, yung una, ang gagawin ni patient, bago yung kanyang surgical procedure, so magdodonate muna siya ng blood. And then yung blood niya na dinonate is nakastore lang yan for later na use or kapag nag-undergo na yung surgery niya at nangailangan bigla ng blood. While si intraoperative naman, so before the surgery, so nakaschedule ka ngayon. Okay, so before the surgery, so kukuhaan ka ng blood and then yung blood na kinuha sa'yo, that will be replaced by fluids. And then after or right after the procedure or at the end of the procedure, so ibabalik sa'yo yung blood na kinuha rin sa'yo. Okay? And then we have here on emergency situations. Okay, emergency situations. Okay, so for emergency, so pag sinabi nating emergency, so immediate. Okay, immediate need for transfusion if we are talking about your emergency transfusion. So sino yung mga qualified dito sa emergency transfusion natin? Okay, emergency transfusion natin. So one of the criteria here for emergency transfusion is kapag yung patient guys loses more than 20%, okay, more than 20% of their blood volume. Okay, yan yung isa sa criteria for emergency transfusion. So for example, may naka-standby ka dyan na blood for emergency transfusion, and one of the criteria natin for emergency transfusion is if ang patient, guys, loses already more than 20% of its blood volume. So, patients who are experiencing rapid and uncontrollable bleeding, and in emergency situations, so transfusion cannot wait until patient's ABO and RH type are determined. Okay. So, hindi pwedeng, naghihingalo na si patient mo, aantayin mo pa yung ABO and RH typing mo. Okay? That's why, in emergencies situation like this, wherein ang transfusion, di na pwedeng antayin mo pa sandali lang kasi ongoing pa ang typing and cross-match sa lab. No. Okay, you have to transfuse agad-agad kasi the blood unit. So, dapat Kapag halimbawa, ang patient's blood type natin is unknown, okay? So, ang gagamitin natin dito is your Group O RBC. Okay, Group O RBC. Okay, but take note of this. We have to use your Group O negative to be specific. Okay, Group O negative RBC. This is only used for female patients of childbearing years or potential to prevent RH incompatibility issue. Better sana talaga na kung emergency transfusion, Group O RBC, which is RH negative, dapat ang nire-release natin. However, yung atin kasing available units for that is kakaunti lang. Okay? So, kung emergency situation siya and you know that your patient naman is not a female of childbearing years, so you can use your Group O RBC na RH positive. But if kailangan, okay, you can use your RH negative Group O RBC for female patient. Kung sakaling hindi talaga maiwasan guys, then right after your transfusion, so kailangan mo kasing ma-perform agad-agad ang type and screen yan para ma-prevent mo yung immunization ng antibody sa patient mo sakali man na halimbawa si female pala RH neg and then RH pos na Group O RBC ang i-release mo sa kanya kasi hindi available ang Group O neg. Okay, so wala ka talagang magagawa doon. Okay, so that's why in emergency transfusion also, when you are going to consider for your RH status, so much better na ang i-release mo na RH neg, okay, RH neg na unit is para na lang sa babae because if your patient is an RH negative male patient naman or older female patient na nasa postmenopausal period na sila. So instead of giving them the RH negative na blood type, you can provide them a Group O RH positive na RBC. Okay? And for post-transfusion screening and cross-matching, so right after mo ma-issue ang O blood type or type-specific blood sa patient in emergency situation, so you have to complete the antibody screen. At the same time, of course, you have to complete the ABO and RH typing. So patients with negative antibody screen, okay? Patients with negative antibody screen, so the ABO-RH type specific blood can be given right after a immediate cross match. So there's no need for you na mag-undergo ka ng incubation and AHG phase because sa type and screen niya, kung sakali, sa antibody screen niya rather, kung sa immediate cross match wala ka namang nakita or hindi naman nag-positive sa antibody screen si patient. So pwede mo na ma-release provided na blood type specific ang i-release mo. Now, if it is A positive, then A positive. Okay, so yan ang ibig sabihin ng blood type specific. So, same RH, same ABO, group. Okay, and then another special consideration is kapag nag-undergo ng massive transfusion. Okay, pag nag-undergo ng massive transfusion. So, ano yung magiging criteria natin or anong definition baga ng massive transfusion? So, when we say massive transfusion, actually it involves replacing one or more blood volumes within 24 hours. Okay, replacement of one or more blood volumes within 24 hours, typically about 10 units of blood in adult. Okay, so 10 units guys, ilang ml ang isang unit ng blood natin? So that is 450, right? So 450 multiply mo sa 10. Okay? So, ganyan kadaming blood na ang nawawala sa kanya. So, massive transfusion na ang kailangan mo. But, when you perform your massive transfusion, so you have to have your own protocol sa laboratory. So that will be based on the comprehensive assessment of the patient's clinical status. Kasi guys, sa massive transfusion, okay, sa massive transfusion, ang kailangan mo kasi dito is blood type specific. Okay, AB or RH type should be the same. Because sa massive transfusion, guys, ang usual na blood type na binibigay dito is your whole blood. Okay. Ngayon, kung magko-component ka, halimbawa, just like this one. So, meron tayong protocol dito for your massive transfusion. Okay. So, draw type and cross-match. So, the transfusion strategy here is to release 2 units of Group O RBCs, which is uncross-match. Okay, so for example, massive transfusion, napakadaming blood na yung nawala sa kanya. Okay, so habang nag-undergo ka ng typing and cross-matching mo, initially, so pwede kang mag-release sa kanya ng 2 units ng Group O RBC. Now, continuing the massive transfusion protocol, okay, so eto yung mga components na pwedeng separate mo na i-infuse sa kanya. So you have here the 4 to 6 type specific or cross-match RBC, 4 plasma, and 1 platelet pool or 1 platelet pheresis. Then you have to monitor the CBC, platelet count, the coagulation studies of your patient, and you can add or subtract the components based on the laboratory values. So for example, pag masyado ng mataas ang naging platelet count niya, obviously babawasan mo yung platelet na ni-infuse mo sa kanya or ititigil mo na yon. Okay? And then you have to provide additional massive transfusion you have to provide additional MTP packs to continue your transfusion until unneeded. So that will depend on the laboratory results na makukuha ni patient mo. So for example, tumataas na yung kanyang, tumataas na si platelet count niya. Okay, so kailangan discontinue mo na yung transfusion na yun sa kanya because too much platelet naman or kapag nasa pinakamataas na value naman ng platelet, so prone ka naman ngayon sa thrombotic or hemorrhagic conditions. Okay? And for massive transfusion, so when you are going to adjust your transfusion pack, okay, so that will be based on the patient's hemoglobin, platelet count, and coagulation test. Okay, so sa coagulation test, ano yung pwede mong i-adjust na unit sa kanya? Obviously, nasan ba naka-reside ang coagulation factors mo, 'di ba? Nasa plasma. Okay? So, i-adjust mo ngayon yung unit na ibibigay mo sa kanya. Now, kapag masyadong mataas na ang hemoglobin niya, ano nang i-adjust mo dito? Obvious ba? RBC mo. Okay? So, ganyan. So, platelets are required if the platelet count is less than 50,000 cells per UL. Okay? And plasma is needed if the coagulation studies are abnormal. Okay? Coagulation studies are abnormal. Now, for the blood type consideration, so RH negative patients may be switched to RH positive. Okay, that is to conserve your RH negative inventory. Kasi nga 'di ba, mas priority natin sana na yung mga RH negative units natin. And if alam natin na limited lang naman yung stocks natin on that, is gagamitin na lang natin siya sa mga female patient of childbearing potential. Okay? And then next, you have here the neonatal transfusion. Okay, neonatal transfusion. So, for your neonates, guys, okay, so most of the time, for neonates, kumuha ka ng blood sa kanya. Then may certain amount ka ng blood na kinuha sa kanya. So, yung kinuha mo na blood na yun, i-replace yun agad ng small volume transfusion ng blood para sa preemies. Kasi bawal yan sila guys na mabawasan ng blood. Okay? And also to treat anemia of prematurity. So, kung ano yung kinuhang blood mo sa kanya, during the laboratory procedure, kumuha ka sa kanya ng blood for laboratory test, so kailangan mo siyang palitan. Okay? So, dito ngayon papasok yung mga small volume transfusion natin. Now, for the dosage and preparation, so a dose of 10 ml per kilogram can increase your hemoglobin level by approximately 3 grams per deciliter. And the methods for the preparation of your transfusion for your neonatal transfusion, so you can prepare your small aliquots for transfusion. Okay, so small aliquots. So from a bigger portion or a bigger blood bag unit, so magpe-prepare ka ngayon ng aliquots. Okay, which is enough lang yung aliquots na yon para sa neonates. Okay, and blood cells stored in your CPDA1 or additive solution are safe to use for your neonatal transfusion. Then you have here the testing and labeling. Now for the testing, okay, so kung paano mo tinetest yung adult blood unit, so same din siya sa neonatal transfusion. Kung nag-perform ka ng type and screen, antibody screen, so pwede yun siya. Pero sa antibody screen guys, hindi siya preferable, 'di ba? Kasi nga yung antibody na possible na present sa neonates is nanggagaling pa siya kay mother. So nasa 3 to 6 months pa bago mag-produce ng antibody or sariling antibody ang bata. So usually, naka-limit lang tayo sa ABO and RH typing. Sa RH typing kasi red blood cell lang naman kailangan mo dyan. Sa ABO now, forward typing lang ang pwede mong magawa dito. So you cannot do then your reverse because of the antibodies na present sa neonates is maternal circulating antibodies pa yan siya. Now, the preferred type of blood units na binibigay sa neonates is less than 7 days old. Okay? Less than 7 days old. This is to prevent the or minimize the risk of hyperkalemia. Okay, hyperkalemia. Okay, so remember kasi kapag matagal na nakastore ang ating RBC, okay, pag matagal na nakastore ang ating RBC, so okay, some of the RBC kasi is nasisira, 'di ba? Okay, so hindi natin maiiwasan yon kasi nag-undergo na rin sila ng old age or senescence. So, di ba, potassium is inside your RBC naka-reside. So, kapag matagal na si RBC, so possible kasi siya na lumabas. Okay? And once na tinransfuse mo yan siya and yung RBC is matagal na siyang nakastore, so there's a possibility na mataas na ang potassium level niyan. Okay? Mataas na ang potassium level niyan. Kaya sa neonates, mas prefer natin na yung blood na itatransfuse sa kanila is less than 7 days old pa lang from the time of collection. And to prevent your CMV infection, okay, to prevent your CMV infection for neonates, we prefer a CMV seronegative or leukocyte-reduced blood products, which is, again, the aim is to prevent your CMV infection or cytomegalovirus infection. Okay, and the irradiation of your blood components. So this is also recommended to prevent TAGVHD for your neonates. And yung mga procedure kung saan nagbibigay tayo ng irradiated components is kapag nagpa-perform tayo ng intrauterine transfusion, exchange transfusion, or transfusion in premature neonates which is less than 1,200 grams lang ang bata. So another thing that we have to consider also is the hemoglobin S testing. Okay, hemoglobin S testing. So infants who are hypoxic or acidotic should receive blood tested, and that blood should be negative for the presence of your hemoglobin S. Okay. So next, we have here the transfusion in oncology. Okay, transfusion in oncology. So dito guys, maraming dapat i-consider dito because these are patients na una, suppress ang kanilang immune system, and pangalawa, ang daming problema sa kanila. So oncology patient kasi guys, most of the time, if ang pinag-uusapan dito is bone marrow suppression. Okay, bone marrow suppression. So technically, lahat ng blood components na meron sila is either mababang mababa yan or dysfunctional because of certain conditions na hindi maiwasan sa kanila. Now, in bone marrow suppression kasi, okay, so since oncology patient yan, cancer patient yan, nag-undergo yan sila ng chemotherapy, radiation therapy. So technically, yung bone marrow cells nila talaga guys is suppressed or mababa talaga. Kasi 'di ba sa chemotherapy and radiation therapy, hindi lang naman si cancer cells or si tumor cells ang target niyan. Ultimong healthy cells mo tina-target niyan. Okay, so walang pinipili si chemotherapy tsaka si radiation therapy. Though, ang intention mo is to treat or to target that cancer cells. However, hindi mo kasi matuutusan yung substance na ginagamit mo sa chemotherapy, okay, and ang equipment na ginagamit mo sa radiation therapy na patayin mo lang si cancer cell, hayaan mo si healthy cells. So, hindi kasi ganun yun. So, whether you like it or not, healthy cells ay madadamay. Okay? So, maliban dyan, so there is already infiltration of malignant cells din kasi sa patients or cancer patients natin. So, some of which leads to okay, anemia and thrombocytopenia. Now, for the compatibility challenges under your oncology patients kasi, so use of rare RBC units or HLA match platelet pheresis component is recommended. Okay? Because hindi kasi puwede rin sa kanila yung mga component lang na usual natin na pine-prepare. So may special preparations ng components para sa oncology patient. Now in platelet transfusion, you can switch from RH negative to RH positive blood products if sakali man. Okay, sakali man na hindi naman na sila yung nasa potential childbearing years, hindi sila female patient, which is possible pa sila na mag-bear ng child. Now, for the RHIG or your RH immunoglobulin, so this is actually administered to your patient of child bearing potential. So, di ba, for our RHIG, this is one of our plasma derivatives. Okay, this is one of the plasma derivatives. So this is harvested actually from women who were hyperimmunized already with your RH or D antigen. So mga women na nag-produce na ng anti-D antibody. So, ina-harvest yan siya, pinupull yung siyang plasma nila, and then you can create there, okay, you can obtain there your RHIG, which is pwede natin siya magamit sa mga female na for on childbearing years pa nila. And then the risk of transfusion associated graft versus host disease. So most of the time, patients with hematologic malignancies such as your Hodgkin's disease and lymphoma. So these are patients who are at risk of developing your TAGVHD. And if they are at risk of developing your TAGVHD during transfusion, so much better na ang ibigay natin ng component sa kanila is irradiated cellular components. Okay, irradiated cellular components. Okay, now your oncology patient also Okay, if they have malignancy such as your lymphocytic leukemia and lymphoma, okay, so these conditions can be complicated by your autoimmune hemolytic anemia. Okay, so there is a increase in the destruction of their RBC. Now, kailangan kapag magbibigay ka dito, okay, magbibigay ka dito ng RBC component sa kanila. So make sure na wala siyang kahit na anong antibodies na nakadikit. Okay, antibodies na nakadikit because some of the autoimmune antibodies, lalong-lalo na kung nanggaling siya sa donor mo, hindi niya alam. Okay? And hindi mo rin siya nakita during your type and screen, 'di ba? Kasi what if nasa emergency situation tong si oncology patient mo na to. So there's a possibility kasi na maging risk siya para sa patient na mag-produce or masira or ma-destroy ang kanilang RBC. So most of the time, if the patient has your malignancy again, such as your lymphocytic leukemia and lymphoma, okay, so this is actually complicated by your autoimmune hemolytic anemia. Okay, and the last condition that we have here is for your coagulation factor deficiencies. Okay, coagulation factor deficiencies. So, common natin na ma-encounter dito is your hemophilia A, B, and your von Willebrand's disease. So, yan yung madalas nating ma-encounter na coagulation factor deficiencies. Now, hemophilia A is the factor 8 deficiency. Okay, factor 8 deficiency or your classic hemophilia. Then si von Willebrand's disease naman, so you have your von Willebrand factor deficiency or dysfunction. So both of this, ano ang meron sa patient natin, therefore common denominator nila is meron silang bleeding tendency or high risk sila for bleeding. Now for our von Willebrand's disease, so we have type 1, type 2A, and type 2B. And type 1 von Willebrand's disease is the reduced amount of all your von Willebrand factor multimers. Si type 2A naman, so deficiency of your high molecular weight multimers. And si type 2B naman, so there is abnormal multimers with an increase in your platelet binding. So what are the treatment options that we can give for our patients with coag factor deficiency? So you can give them your DDVAP or your desmopressin. And then you can give them factor 8 products. Okay, factor 8 products, so you have from your plasma derivatives, so you have your factor 8 concentrates. Okay, factor 8 concentrates. Now, if your patient has hemophilia B or factor 9 deficiency, so you can provide them a recombinant factor 9 or your prothrombin, okay, prothrombin complex concentrates. Okay, now if the patient has liver failure, okay, liver failure, so expect mo na guys na meron siyang possible na coagulation factor deficiencies. Why? Because your coagulation factors, most of your coagulation factors are being synthesized in your liver. Okay? So, dun ang manufacturing site natin ng coag factors natin. Now, in severe liver failure, so there are multiple coagulation factor deficiencies. Again, the reason behind that is doon sa liver sinesynthesize ang most or halos lahat ng ating coagulation factors. So, plasma transfusion due to an abnormal production or function of your coagulation factors is recommended. So, kung deficient ka sa coagulation factors mo or dysfunctional ang coagulation factors mo, okay, so plasma transfusion is one of the requirement. Okay? Sa plasma kasi, diyan marami ang inyong coagulation factors. Okay, now if your patient has vitamin K deficiency naman, so vitamin K deficiency is seen in warfarin overdose or in liver disease. Okay, so in warfarin overdose or in liver disease, which leads to impairment of the activation of your coagulation proteins. So kapag 'di ba hindi nag-activate, okay, or hindi naging activated form ang coagulation proteins natin, so paano siya ngayon magsa-start ng formation ng blood clot? 'Di ba kung naalala ninyo sa coag pathway ninyo, okay, halimbawa daan tayo ng okay, intrinsic. So, activation of your factor 12. Okay, this one will activate your factor 11. Then, you have your factor 9, ay 9. Okay, activation of your factor 9 by your activated factor 11. And then, sinong cofactor nito? You have your factor 8, di ba? Okay, then papasok ka sa common coag pathway hanggang sa umabot ka doon sa fibrinogen production mo para makapag-form ka ng blood clot or stabilize na fibrinogen. Okay, now, kapag meron kang warfarin overdose or liver disease, so yung activation ng coagulation proteins mo will be inhibited. And for your vitamin K deficient patient, okay, so this should be treated with vitamin K administration rather than your plasma transfusion. Kasi kahit present lahat ng coagulation factor sa plasma, kung ang problema mo is the vitamin K which helps your coag factor na magkaroon sila or mag-undergo sila ng activation. So, walang saysay yun. So, much better na vitamin K ang i-administer mo para gumana. Okay, gumana yung coag factor mo and mag-undergo sila ng activation process which is kailangan kasi nila yon para mag-function sila. Kailangan nasa activated form kasi ang ating coag factors para mag-function sila. Okay? And then in cases naman of your DIC or your disseminated intravascular coagulation, so when we say DIC, so that is an uncontrolled activation and consumption of your coagulation protein. So simultaneous na formation ng blood clot, okay, inside your blood vessel. Now, the treatment option here is transfusion of your plasma, your platelets, or you can use your cryoprecipitate. Okay, cryoprecipitate because your cryoprecipitate has high levels of your coag factors. And then for platelet disorders naman, okay, so platelet disorders natin kasi so pwedeng quanti, pwedeng quali. Okay, quantity of platelet count ang problem natin. Kapag quali naman, so function naman ng platelets ang problem natin doon. So, platelet functional disorders may result from drugs, uremia, or congenital abnormalities. Kaya nga may hereditary and acquired platelet disorders din kayo na tinatawag, di ba? Now, platelet transfusion here should be reserved for treating hemorrhage or impending need for hemostasis. Okay, so for platelet disorders, so ang kapalit na treatment natin or transfusion component natin is also platelet. Okay, so for your transfusion therapy in special conditions, guys, so you can read that in your book on pages 365 to 368. So maikli lang yan siya, guys. Okay, maikli lang yan siya, but kahit maikli yan siya, kung di mo siya binabasa, yari ka pa rin sa exam at sa quiz, 'di ba? So you have to read that. Now, let's proceed with your next topic, which is your apheresis. Okay? Apheresis na tayo, guys. Now, the early development of your apheresis traces back pa no? 60 years ago. Okay, 60 years ago. That's when Dr. Edwin J. Conn devised a method to purify your albumin from your plasma. Okay, this is to purify your albumin from your plasma, which is, it gives a safer na transfusion for your plasma. Okay. Now, for the milestone ng ating apheresis, milestone. So, in 1960s, A. Solomon and J. L. Fahey separated whole blood into plasma and red blood cell. Okay, so they separated whole blood into plasma and red blood cell. And take note that Emil J. Friedrich and George Hudson developed the first continuous flow apheresis machine in collaboration. So this time, so meron na pala tayong apheresis machine. Okay. Now, for the apheresis, so unti-unti nagkakaroon na tayo ng advancement ng technology, but take note, so kahit mag-advance ang technology natin for your apheresis machine, okay, so the core process will still remain. So ano bang core process ng apheresis? So you have here withdrawing of your blood, okay, separating the components, and then collecting or removing the specific components and then returning the rest. Okay, so you have here the patient, okay, kukuhaan siya ng blood, dadaan siya sa apheresis machine. So, si apheresis machine ang magse-separate ng component. Okay? And then, kukunin niya lang yung specific na component na kailangan mo, and then the rest of the component is ibabalik kay patient. Okay? So, the principle of your apheresis is to separate your blood component based on their specific gravity. Na kung paano ka mag-centrifuge ng plasma mo pag nagse-separate ka ng RBC from your whole blood, di ba? When you have your whole blood here, centrifuge mo yan siya. Then, after mo ma-centrifuge, makikita mo may tatlong portion ka na. So, you have there the plasma on the top. Okay. Then WBCs and platelets dito in between or nasa buffy coat na area. And then RBC yung dito sa pinaka-baba. So this separation technique will allow this apheresis machine na i-target niya yung removal and collection of your components. So pagdaan nito guys, okay, pagdaan ng blood mo dito sa apheresis machine, so 'di ba, meron yan diyang centrifuge sa loob. So, gagawin niya, isi-separate niya yung components na yan via centrifugation. Na kung ang target niya lang is plasma, so mapupunta yan siya dito sa separate na blood bag. And then, ang matitira dyan is your WBC platelets and your RBC, which will, okay, mapupunta naman siya dito sa kabilang blood bag. And then, etong component na hindi mo kailangan, so dadaan ulit yan ng apheresis machine mo, then ibabalik niya yan kay patient. Okay, so ganyan yung pinaka-principle ng apheresis procedure natin. So the application, so we have two applications involved in your apheresis. Okay, so in your apheresis. So you can collect, okay, you can collect the specific components of your blood from your donors, which is what we call your donor apheresis. So si donor mo, okay, kukuhaan mo siya ng specific na blood component, and then, okay, eto yung i-reserve mo sa mga patient na mangangailangan ng component na yan. So, kumbaga si donor, kinuhaan mo ng specific blood component via apheresis, and this will be given to another person, right? Okay. Now, pag sinabi natin kasing therapeutic apheresis, therapeutic apheresis, so there is removal of a particular components from your patient for therapeutic purposes. So you have there your plasma pheresis, platelet pheresis, erythrocyte apheresis, and leukapheresis. Now, I'll give you one example muna. Okay, I'll give you one example muna. For example, you have your erythrocytopheresis. So this is actually removal of your RBC from your patient. In what case? Okay, in what case? Now, for example, si patient natin ay may polycythemia. Okay, polycythemia guys is increase ang RBC component mo, right? Okay? So, since napakarami ng RBC sa katawan mo, so pwede kang mag-undergo ng tinatawag nating therapeutic apheresis, wherein specifically tatanggalin yung sobrang RBC sa'yo. Okay? So, polycythemia. Okay, guys, si PV is iba yan siya. PV or polycythemia vera all your cells naman dito is increase, hindi lang si RBC. Pag polycythemia alone, si RBC lang ang increase. Pag polycythemia vera naman is all your blood cell component ang increase. Okay? So, ganyan yan siya. Now, if mag-perform ka ng erythrocytophoresis, ibig sabihin, ang targeted component mo lang na tatanggalin sa kanya is RBC. Okay? So, kumbaga, kay therapeutic apheresis, nagtatanggal ka ng sobrang blood component sa kanya or nagre-replace ka. Okay? Nagre-replace ka. So, halimbawa, dysfunctional ang kanyang platelets. So, tatanggalin mo ang platelets sa kanya via apheresis and then magre-replace ka ng functional na platelets sa kanya. Okay? Yun ang replacement therapy naman under your apheresis procedure. Okay, so donor apheresis, kukuhaan si donor ng specific blood component, idodonate niya sa ibang tao. Okay? Pero sa therapeutic apheresis, ikaw ang pasyente. Tinatanggal sa iyo yung component na sobra sa katawan mo or dysfunctional siya. So kapag dysfunctional siya, malamang kukunin yung specific na component na yan and then papalitan yan siya ng functional na blood component. So ganon si apheresis nagwo-work. Okay? Now, for the methodology, so your apheresis actually uses an automated technology. Typically, centrifugation ang pinaka-main na principle natin. But this automated technology, which is naka-embed siya sa ating apheresis machine. So this is controlled by a computerized panel to select and collect or remove a specific blood component. So in modern apheresis machine, so we are using here disposable tubing sets, bag, and collection chambers. Okay, and then this ensures the sterility and safety of your blood components na nire-remove, binabalik, okay, or kinukuha sa patient. Okay, so ano bang itsura ng ating apheresis machine? So ganito siya guys. So computerized control siya na kung saan pwede mo siyang pindutin kung ano lang yung component na kailangan mong kunin sa kanya. Okay, so makikita nyo may multiple blood bag units dyan because your machine here functions as a big centrifuge na kung saan siya nang bahala mag-separate ng components para sa'yo. So, yung component na kukunin mo, i-retain mo siya sa isang blood bag and then the rest of the component na dumaan dito sa kabilang blood bag, ibabalik yan siya kay patient. Okay? And then, next, so we have here the procedure duration of your apheresis. So typically, your apheresis procedure takes about 45 to 120 minutes. Okay, so if we are collecting here hematopoietic progenitor cells, so longer duration must be expected. So special apheresis procedure na itong collection ng progenitor cells ninyo. So matagal talaga yan dahil si hematopoietic progenitor cells ninyo guys, 'di ba? Nasa bone marrow 'yan siya. Kaya nasa bone marrow 'yan siya. So kailangan mo mag-induce ng stimulus para lumabas sila. Okay? So later on we will discuss that also. Okay. So what are the variables for consideration during your apheresis procedure? So you have here the centrifuge speed and the diameter, the duration of dwell time of the blood in the centrifuge, the type of solution added, such as your anticoagulants or sedimenting agents. So sedimenting agents, guys, so for example, you have your HES, okay, HES or your hydroxyethyl starch. So para mas maganda ang yield mo ng WBC or plasma, okay, gamit ka ng sedimenting agent. So, si HES, mag-work yan siya kay RBC pa, lulubugin niya si RBC sa pinaka-bottom part ng centrifuge mo. Okay, or ng blood bag unit mo na sinecentrifuge. Okay, and then the cellular content or plasma volume of the patient or donor should be also considered. Okay, now we have here the methods of centrifugation that is most commonly employed in our instrument or apheresis machine natin. So we have two. methods of centrifugation, the intermittent flow centrifugation and the continuous flow centrifugation. Okay, so intermittent. Okay, intermittent, so the blood is collected in intermittently in cycles. So the centrifuge stops periodically, allowing collection of your specific components while the rest of the blood is returned to the donor or patient. So dito sa intermittent flow centrifugation, so ang nangyayari is kapag dumaan na si blood dito kay apheresis machine, so magse-centrifuge yan siya ng component. And then halimbawa, nakuha niya na si plasma. Okay, nakukuha niya na si plasma, so magsa-stop etong centrifuge na 'to. Okay, magsa-stop etong centrifuge na 'to, so kukunin niyan si plasma and then the rest of the component ibabalik niya muna kay patient. Okay? So, it stops periodically. So, hindi siya tuloy-tuloy na nagse-separate ng component. For example, ang kailangan mo lang una is si plasma. Okay, pagdaan yan kay apheresis machine, okay, pagdaan yan kay apheresis machine, so kapag na-centrifuge na ang components, kukunin niya muna si plasma, and then the rest of the component ibabalik niya sa'yo. Unlike kay continuous flow centrifugation, okay, continuous flow centrifugation naman, so this allows your blood flow continuously to the centrifuge without interruption. Okay, without interruption. So, simultaneous. Ang ginagawa na itong continuous flow centrifuge na to, from your patient, dadaan si blood mo kay apheresis machine. And then, ang ginagawa niya, guys, so, habang nagsicentrifuge siya, okay, nagsicentrifuge siya ng whole blood, so, nag-aano na siya guys, nagse-separate na siya ng multiple components. So, continuously. Okay, continuously niya na sineseparate ang components. So, you have the plasma, the platelets, and white blood cell, and then your RBC. Okay, so continuous ang separation niya. So, pag natapos na yung separation niya, okay, ibabalik niya lang kay patient yung lahat ng hindi na kailangan. Okay, then iiwan niya yung sample or component na kukuhain mo sa kanya. Now, this is an example of your, okay, this is an example of your intermittent flow centrifugation. So, it stops. Okay, pagka-collect niya ng sample, ibabalik niya yung rest ng component. Okay, and then kuha ulit, and then balik. Kuha, balik. Unlike a continuous flow centrifugation, diretso. So, continuously siya na nagse-separate ng components, and then pag natapos na, kukunin mo lang yung, i-retain mo lang yung kailangan mo, and then the rest, ibabalik mo na sa kanya. So, this is the example naman of your continuous flow centrifugation. Okay. So, next is, we have here the component collection via apheresis. So, the first one is your red blood cell. So, red blood cell or apheresis RBC collection or erythrocytapheresis. Okay. So, pwedeng collection or removal. Okay, basta si RBC lang ang target muna natin dito. So, typically, in collection, so this is done as a double unit procedure. Okay, double unit procedure. So, it actually offers your donor, it offers a reduction ng exposure ng blood products sa recipient niyo. So, unlike kasi guys, ganito halimbawa, whole blood collection ka. Okay, so pag nag-whole blood collection ka, magsiseparate ka ng components niyan manually. So, kukuha ka ng RBC. Okay, RBC. Sometimes guys, sa isang whole blood collection, hindi enough yung RBC na ma-obtain mo. So, kailangan mong kumuha pa sa ibang unit. Okay, so technically, coming from a multiple donor, so mas mataas ang risk na, mas mataas ang risk na ma-expose si recipient mo sa iba't ibang donor. Unlike kapag apheresis blood collection siya, so double unit procedure. So, dalawang unit agad ng RBC ang pwede mong ma-obtain, which is one donor, one recipient. Same donor sa isang recipient. So, mas lessen ang exposure ni patient mo to multiple donors. Okay? And for the donor criteria, okay, for your red blood cell or RBC apheresis ninyo, so the hematocrit level regardless of the gender should be at least 40%. And this is determined by quantitative method. So, quantitative method, i-measure mo talaga ang hemoglobin or hematocrit level niya. So, you cannot use your copper sulfate solution. Okay? So, dito, nag-aano kasi siya, parallel siya kumbaga sa result din ni hemoglobin mo. So, kung mababa sa hemoglobin, lumutang yung hemoglobin mo dyan. So, ibig sabihin, mababa rin si hematocrit mo. So, hematocrit here should be obtained or ang result ng hematocrit natin should be obtained via quantitative method. So, kailangan may number ka na makikita or reference value ka na makikita. Now, for the donor eligibility, so the donor must wait 16 weeks rather, after providing 2 units of your RBC. Okay? And 56 days naman kapag 1 unit of RBC lang ang nakuha sa kanya and 1 unit of your plasma or platelet. So this is applicable for both your allogenic and your autologous donor. Now, for the donor tolerance of your RBC apheresis, so these are well-tolerated procedure. Okay, well-tolerated procedure. So, mas mataas pa nga actually ang risk na magkaroon ng reaction, donor reaction si donor na nag-donate ng whole blood. Kasi halimbawa, nag-donate siya ng whole blood, multiple bags ang na-donate niya. So, marami kasi blood components ang matatanggal sa kanya. Whole blood component or whole blood kasi ang tinanggal sa kanya. Unlike dito kay RBC apheresis na RBC lang talaga ang kinuha ko sa kanya. So, there is no plasma na involved, walang platelets, WBC na natanggal. So, RBC lang ang tinarget ko. So, mas lesser ang risk and mas safer siya and wala siya masyadong complication unlike kay whole blood. Okay? And then next component is you have here your plasma. Okay, now for plasma collection or plasma pheresis na tinatawag natin, so this is the separation of your plasma from your whole blood. So, plasmapheresis or plasma collected via apheresis procedure is equivalent to at least 2 whole blood-derived plasma unit. So, one plasmapheresis procedure, okay, one plasmapheresis procedure, then you have here your whole blood na collection. So, etong si plasmapheresis, so, 2 times more ang makukuha mo sa kanya na plasma compared sa plasma na ma-obtain mo from 1 unit of your whole blood na collected from another donor. And for the clinical application, so pwede siyang direct patient use if it is for autologous donation. Okay, and this can augment a specific ABO group inventories of FFP, especially group AB. So you can save. Okay, you can save. So pwede mong i-maintain pa for longer period of time or kung kailan mo kailangan ang plasma na to. So because guys, sa plasma, okay, plasma, so fresh frozen plasma, especially your group AB, 'di ba? It does not contain kasi any anti-A or anti-B antibody, 'di ba? So mas kailanganin natin actually kasi kokonti lang talaga ang ating stock for that. Okay? So kapag obtain ka ng FFP, so mas mai-increase mo ngayon yung storage inventory mo ng plasma na merong type AB. Type AB na blood group. Okay, so mas kasi ito guys, safer kasi siya to transfuse because it does not contain any ABO antibodies. Okay, pero nire-reserve yan dahil kakaunti lang din ang tao na blood type AB. Okay, and you can also prepare your immune globulin for prophylaxis against infectious agent coming from your plasma because sa plasma guys, nandiyan lahat ng antibodies ninyo. Okay, antibodies ninyo palutang-lutang sa plasma, hindi naman nakadikit si antibodies kay RBC. Okay, so you can prepare there your immune globulin. Kaya nga 'di ba may mga plasma derivatives tayo na tinatawag. Okay, so we can prepare a specific component pa out of the plasma component that we have. Okay, and for commercial use, Okay, for commercial use, so you can have here your plasma derivatives. Your example, you have your immune globulin, your hepatitis immune globulin, and your RH immune globulin. Okay. And then for donor requirements, okay, for donor requirements, so plasma collection donors are actually categorized into two, which is na-mention ko na rin to before sa blood donor collection natin. So you have the frequent plasmapheresis and your infrequent plasmapheresis. So frequent plasmapheresis is also known as your serial plasmapheresis. So the donation occurs more than frequent the donation here occurs more than once every 4 weeks. Okay, infrequent plasmapheresis naman, so once every 4 weeks lang siya. Okay, once every 4 weeks lang si infrequent plasma. While si frequent plasmapheresis, more than once every 4 weeks meron siyang plasma donation na ginagawa. Okay, and the next component is we have here your platelets. Okay, so sa platelets natin, so platelet obtained via apheresis is equivalent to actually 6 to 8 units of whole blood derived platelets. Okay, 6 to 8 units of whole blood. So isang platelet unit lang yan siya ang ma-obtain mo dyan. Okay, isang platelet unit lang yan siyang ma-obtain mo dyan. Okay, unlike kapag nag-platelet apheresis ka, so yung isang unit na to is equivalent na siya dito sa 6 to 8 whole blood na kinolect mo coming from 6 to 8 different donors. Okay? And for the procedure overview, so the platelets and a small portion of your plasma are removed from the donor. Then the rest of the components is binabalik sa donor. And the collected platelets are suspended in your donor plasma. Okay, now for the donor selection, so same criteria as what you have in your whole blood collection. But we have here an additional requirement, which is dapat ang donor natin has a platelet count of at least 150,000 cells per UL. And kapag halimbawa, nagte-take si donor ng anti-platelet medication, so we have temporary deferral periods on that before donation. And then we have here the collection intervals and limits of your platelet apheresis. So at least 2 days. Okay, at least 2 days with no more than 2 procedure in a 7-day period. Okay, so kapag halimbawa mag-undergo siya ng platelet apheresis, so at least 2 days ang magiging pagitan provided na wala siyang ginawa na iba pang procedure in a 7-day period. Talagang platelet apheresis lang ang pinagawa niya. So, pwedeng after 2 days, pwede siya ulit mag-donate ng platelets. And the donor can undergo a maximum of 24 platelet pheresis in a 1-year period or 12-month rolling period. And for the product characteristics, so yung ma-obtain natin na platelet via platelet apheresis, so that is typically leukocyte reduced. Okay, leukocyte reduced. So it must contain at least or less than 5 times 10 to the 6th white blood cells per unit. And the total volume of plasma collected during the procedure is also regulated. So kung gaano kadami ang platelets mo, so dapat in ratio or in proportion si plasma din na kukunin mo sa kanya. Okay? So hindi mo pwedeng sobrahan, hindi pwedeng kulang din siya sa plasma. Okay, kasi suspended nga si platelets kay donor plasma. And then we have here the next blood component, your granulocytes. So for your granulocytes naman, so this can provide a higher yield of your granulocytes compared to your whole blood donation. So sa apheresis collection, actually, mas marami yung granulocyte na ma-obtain natin compared to whole blood donation na kapag magse-separate tayo ng granulocyte. So the therapeutic dose of your granulocyte, the minimum therapeutic dose is 1 times 10 to the 10th granulocytes per day. And corticosteroids, the use of corticosteroids or colony stimulating factors, okay, This can stimulate the donor prior to collection. So before mag-undergo ng granulocyte apheresis si donor, so much better na mag-take siya or i-inject siya with your corticosteroids or colony stimulating factors para mas marami yung WBC na ma-obtain via apheresis. And for the collection process optimization, so you can use here your sedimenting agent for your RBC, which is your hydroxyethyl starch. Okay? So, kapag gumamit ka ng sedimenting agent, so mas mataas yung, mas mataas yung percent na makukuha mong granulocyte kasi nga mas less contaminated siya ni RBC dahil nga lumubog sa pinaka-bottom na portion na si RBC. Okay, so the use of your hydroxyethyl starch can actually improve separation of your WBC and your RBC. Kasi palulubugin ni HES si RBC. So, mas maganda ang magiging yield mo ng WBC dito. Now, for donor mobilization, so your donor, when they take your oral corticosteroid, so this can mobilize your granulocyte for non-circulating pool. Remember, guys, basic hematology. Okay, so you have here your granulocytes. For instance, meron tayong neutrophil. Okay, isa si neutrophil sa mga granulocyte natin, 'di ba? So 'di ba si neutrophil natin may dalawang pool yan siya sa ating blood vessel. The circulating neutrophil pool and the marginated neutrophil pool. So circulating neutrophil pool, siya yung lumulutang dito sa blood circulation mo. Okay, and then yung marginated neutrophil pool ninyo is yung nakadikit dito sa endothelial cells ninyo sa blood vessel ninyo. So with the use of your oral corticosteroids, so it can mobilize your granulocytes. So tatanggalin or matatanggal yung mga granulocyte na nandito sa marginated neutrophil pool, and then sasama sila dito sa circulating neutrophil pool ninyo, which is mas marami ka ngayon na neutrophils or granulocyte na ma-obtain. Kasi lalo na dito guys, 50-50 ang ratio niyan, 'di ba? 50% ng neutrophils ninyo nakadikit sa blood vessel wall. 50% of that is nagse-circulate sa inyong blood flow, 'di ba? Blood circulation ninyo. So, when you take your oral corticosteroid, so pati yung neutrophil na nakadikit doon sa marginated pool is sasama siya or matatanggal siya doon. Okay? And then the use of your granulocyte colony stimulating factor naman can enhance the yield of your granulocytes. And then you have here your plasmapheresis or plasma exchange. Okay, so dito na tayo ngayon sa therapeutic procedures. Okay, therapeutic procedures. So eto guys, it's either kukuhaan natin si patient kung sobra or dysfunctional ang kanyang specific na blood component, and then with an exchange ng same component. So halimbawa, kanina tulad ng example ko, sobra-sobra halimbawa yung kanyang RBC, may polycythemia siya. So kuhaan natin siya ng RBC alone. Okay? So therapeutic procedures, so we have here the plasmapheresis. Okay? Plasmapheresis or pwede rin tayo mag-perform ng plasma exchange. Now, for the therapeutic exchange plasma, so this can remove pathological substances such as antibodies, toxins, or abnormal proteins present in your plasma, causing clinical symptoms. And then it replaces by your deficient factor substances in your patient plasma. Now, for example, si patient natin ay may coagulation factor deficiency. Okay? Coagulation factor deficiencies or meron siyang halimbawa, increase na antibodies or immunoglobulins sa kanyang plasma. Okay, so ang gagawin natin via therapeutic apheresis or therapeutic procedures ng ating apheresis, so tatanggalin natin si plasma na kung saan meron siyang mga deficient na coagulation factor or may mataas siya na immune globulin complexes. So, tatanggalin natin yan. Okay? Via apheresis. So, specifically, si plasma lang ang ni-remove ko sa kanya. And then, okay, pwede natin siya i-replace ng plasma na may normal level, okay, normal level ng coagulation factor, may functional na coagulation factor, or may normal level ng antibodies. Okay? And then, for the efficiency of your plasmapheresis, okay, so one volume exchange can reduce unwanted plasma component to approximately 30% of its initial value. Okay, so for example, yung plasma na tinanggal sa'yo, okay, yung plasma na tinanggal sa'yo ay merong elevated na number ng immune globulins. So may hypergamma globulinemia ka kunwari. Okay? So, halimbawa, yung 100 na, okay, immunoglobulins na present sa plasma mo na yan. So, yung initial, okay, yung initial na plasmapheresis or yung pag-remove ng plasma dyan sa'yo, okay, and then papalitan yan siya ng plasma na normal. So that can reduce your immune globulins here for up to 30%. So 70% na lang ang matitira sa iyo. So, the rest ng 30% is kinuha mo na siya via plasmapheresis. Now, what are the possible factors that will affect the efficiency of your plasmapheresis or your plasma exchange? Now, for example, if the patient has overproduction of antibodies, okay, overproduction of antibodies. So, meron nga siyang hypergamma globulinemia, for example. So this can require multiple sessions of your therapeutic plasma exchange. Okay, and then that should be for example, ang case pa ni patient is nagte-take pa siya ng immunosuppressive drug. So kailangan mag-perform or mag-undergo siya ng multiple sessions para matanggal yung excess na immune globulin sa kanyang plasma. And then next, we have your platelet pheresis. So platelet pheresis, so this can treat your patient with elevated platelet count. So if your patient has thrombocytosis, so it can undergo platelet pheresis. Tanggalin mo yung sobrang platelets sa katawan niya. Now, ang normal value ng platelet natin, di ba? Okay, platelet natin sa blood circulation is 150,000 to 450,000 cells per UL. Yan yung normal value, di ba, ng platelet count natin. Now, if the platelet count of the patient reaches more than 500,000 cells per UL, so this actually occurs in patients with myeloproliferative disorders such as your essential thrombocythemia, polycythemia vera, and your chronic myelogenous leukemia. So, napakataas ng platelet count nila. So, you can perform here platelet pheresis, removal. Okay? Removal of excess platelets sa katawan ni patient. Now, if your patient has more than 100 million cells per UL na. So they are at risk of developing thrombotic or hemorrhagic complications na. So, multiple sessions ngayon of platelet pheresis ang gagawin mo rin sa kanya. Now, the procedure for your platelet pheresis can reduce your platelet count by 30 to 60% per procedure. Okay, per procedure, so it can reduce your platelet count by 30 to 60%. And then you have here your leukapheresis. Okay, leukapheresis. So, removal of your WBC naman. Okay, removal of your WBC naman. Especially, this is indicated in patient with hyperleukocytosis. Hyperleukocytosis or the WBC or circulating blast counts niya is over 100,000 cells per UL na. Okay, and the procedure here, per procedure or per session, so this can reduce your WBC count by 30 to 60%. So magdedepende yan siya kung ilang procedure, ilang session ang gagawin mo sa case sa level ng WBC na present pa sa kanya. That's why every after procedure, so prior to your apheresis or therapeutic apheresis, so magpa-perform ka muna ng WBC count or kanina platelet count. And then after your procedure, so kailangan mag-perform ka ulit ng WBC count para you'll know kung gaano kadami yung na-reduce na cells sa kanya. And then erythrocytophoresis naman or red blood cell exchange. So si RBC naman ang ating target. So this is usually used in sickle cell disease. Okay, sickle cell disease. So kukunin mo lahat ng RBC na dysfunctional and then you will replace it with a normal na RBC. Okay, kunin mo lahat ng dysfunctional na RBC and then replace it with a normal RBC. So the procedure, okay, per procedure, so this can decrease your hemoglobin S levels to less than 30% per procedure per session. So a single procedure actually requires 6 to 10 RBC units and it should be ABO and RH compatible, freshly obtained blood sample, reduce, and that should be negative for hemoglobin S. So, ito yung ipapalit mo na RBC sa kanya. Okay, so kapag kinuhaan mo siya ng RBC na dysfunctional, papalitan mo siya ng RBC na normal. And for example, you have here, you can also use your erythrocytophoresis in an overwhelming malaria or Babesia infection. Because take note guys, etong si malaria at saka si Babesia natin, ang tina-target nila is your red blood cell, intracellular na parasites yan sila na kung saan doon talaga sila magre-reside sa loob ng RBC mo. Now, pwede kang mag-perform ng erythrocytophoresis. So, removal of that infected infected RBC, and then pwede mo siyang palitan ng normal na RBC. So, 1.5 to 2 volume 1.5 to 2 volume exchange to decrease your parasitic load. Okay, so lahat ng infected RBC, tatanggalin mo siya via erythrocytophoresis. So si RBC lang, tanggalin mo. And then papalitan mo siya ng normal na RBC component. Okay? And then fluid replacement, fluid replacement in therapeutic apheresis. Okay, so cytopheresis, ibig sabihin, cells ang kinuha sa kanya. White blood cell, red blood cell, platelets. Okay, so in your cytopheresis procedure, so additional fluid is often necessary to the return of patient's plasma. So, kapag magpa-perform ka ng cytopheresis, so technically, meron at merong plasma na sumasama dyan. So, kailangan mo siyang i-replace with alternative fluid. Okay? And then, plasmapheresis procedure, since sa plasmapheresis, si plasma ang kinukuha natin sa kanya, so dapat, guys, large volume of plasma must be retained to the donor or sa patient mo. Hindi pwedeng ubusin mo ang plasma niyan. Okay, and then common replacement fluid na ginagamit is the human serum albumin as 5% solution, and you have your normal saline as an alternative solution. Okay, now your fresh frozen plasma, so these are reserved in patients with disorders like your TTP or thrombotic thrombocytopenic purpura, and cryoprecipitated reduced plasma naman or your cryopoor plasma or your CPP. So this is an alternative for your patient not responding to FFP previously. But again, CPP is not a substitute for your FFP. So kapag sakali lang na hindi talaga siya nagre-respond kay FFP, so you can use your cryopoor plasma or your cryoprecipitate reduced plasma. And then we have here your special procedure, which is the collection of your hematopoietic progenitor cell. Hematopoietic progenitor cell. So apheresis procedure for both your autologous and allogenic donor. So this is similar to performing your leukapheresis. Okay, so targeting only the mononuclear cells containing your hematopoietic progenitor cell. So this is longer than your common apheresis procedure. Kasi 'di ba yung common apheresis procedure natin is only 45 to 120 minutes. Now, kapag magko-collect ka kasi ng hematopoietic progenitor cells, so yung isang session to several session can actually last for 4 to 6 hours. 4 to 6 hours. And you are required here to use your hematopoietic growth factors, particularly your GCSF, your granulocyte colony stimulating factor, to mobilize your stem cells. So, para pumunta sa circulation mo si stem cell. And then, you are also required here to perform your CD34 cell measurement. This is to ensure that there is adequate mobilization of your hematopoietic or stem cells mo right after you were injected with your granulocytes colony stimulating factor. Okay, and then the advantages of your pheresis collection, which is, ang i-collect mo dito is HPCs. So, it avoids anesthesia sa donor or sa patient. And this can be performed as an outpatient procedure. And the peripheral venous access is preferred. But some allogenic donors may require a central line replacement kapag sa CVS or sa central access ka kumuha. Then regulation and advancement of your hematopoietic progenitor cell apheresis. So this is strictly regulated by your FDA, AABB, and your FACT or your foundations for the accreditation for cellular therapy. Okay? And that ends our discussion for your apheresis. So guys, basahin ang libro ha. Page 396 to 413. So andyan yung topic natin na apheresis. And then next week, we will proceed with your transfusion reactions. So that's it guys for today. And if you don't have any more questions, so you are all free to go and good luck sa workshop ng iba dyan. Okay? Goodbye.